Hi everyone, Anne-Marie Band here. Today is the 28th of February. I am a little late this morning, and my apologies for that. What we are looking at is the broad market. Normally we have NFP on Friday, the first Friday of the month, but this Friday it didn't really work out that way, so NFP is next Friday. We still have a fair bit of news potentially coming out today, tomorrow, and Friday. So we might start a little bit of acceleration in one direction or another. My suspicion is that we still remain range bound, but continue to grind into support. And what this does is work off the overbought levels. Now, someone said, hey, I'm trying to get my double smooth stochastic to look like yours. In TOS, I am using 5, 3, and 7. In TrendSpider, I'm using 3, 3, and 3. Don't ask me why. It'll take too long to explain, but that's what we've got. And we can see the beautiful things about us getting at the very, very top of these smooth stochastics and the very, very bottom of this double smooth stochastic. Again, William Blau, probably one of the most beautiful technical indicators in his repertoire, but amazing statistician. I am, of course, a little particular about him simply because I am also a trained statistician. Now, that being said, we move along. We can take a look at this in a little bit of a topping space, but with room to run. So we've got this moving up here. Bitcoin, again, as I mentioned, Bitcoin's been tugging gold up with it. So we might actually get to see this 2062 up here, but you can clearly see the formations. I wanted to clean the charts up a little because they are getting a bit muddy. If you do trade gold, we can see that it's grinding upward, but near the top of the volatility bands, and it is a rare thing for it to walk the bands without some measure of news. Now, we do have possibility of some news coming around, but that's a currency event that we won't discuss, neither here nor there. All right, let's go backwards. We'll go to oil next. Deanna did an incredible job. Well, so did Hogue, actually. The two of them together calling for these much bigger moves. Why is this not working? Yeah. This is also bullish, neutral to bullish. So I'm going to give it that color. But we can see that it's coming into the top of the range. Here is the breakout level. I'm going to put 77-ish. That's kind of a heavy congestion, right? My thought is that it's really closer to the 77 marker. And we know from Topstep TV that we spend a lot of time at these round number checkoff points, and that's what we're doing currently at 79. Where is the indicator? A little bit on the rise. So we know that dips are still buy zones. Look at the trend, folks. Simple is as simple does. Just follow the range. It is slipping further and further away from that trend. So we could have ourselves a punch to the upside and then another fade. That's super important for us to look at. Volatility bands showing range expansion. But again, notice 1, 2, 3. Up there is where it starts getting tired. And wouldn't you know it, it's right around that dot 20 that we tend to see in oil. So that's what we are looking at. Let's take a look at the RTY, just giving us a broad view of everything these days. Look, again, kind of a topping space, but we can clearly see that we've got ourselves some higher lows, right? And so the market is grinding into those spaces. Now, could this be a flag pattern that breaks down? Absolutely. But I can tell you a lot of people are saying, hey, why don't we look at small caps for some motion? We had a big biotech week last week, and now potentially we pull into support and then break to the upside here. Volatility bands showing expansion that says, you know, neutral to bullish because we have higher lows, but we've got a downward sloping VWAP today. So we really want to be a little bit cautious just going out and buying the RTY unless we really are trying to stare down old resistance into new support. And that happens to be at the very bottom of the third volatility band here, which I think is pretty interesting. We just went through oil, didn't we? All right, let's go next to the NQ. Right? if we take a look at the state, we can see a little bit of a topping formation, right? I mean, have a look. It is looking a little bit toppy, right? Coming into old support. This is the tight moving average that I use. And it's coming in. Buyers are going to try and come near these round numbers. But again, you know the volatility in the NQ can be very dramatic. So you want to be very careful there. What are we doing? We're still buying the dip. Absolutely still buying the dip. Let's take a look at the 30-minute. You can see coming into only the second volatility band, but we've got a downward sloping VWAP that is starting to get a little bit of traction at around this 925 area. We know this area really, really well. So the combination of the prior day's low that was broken and immediately recovered, as well as the retest, tells me that we are still in a buy the dip formation. Very, very important that we understand that we are still in a buy the dip formation. So unless you want to be quick taking a short, you're going to have trouble holding on to your gains. Okay, take a look here. Again, old resistance, new support coming in. Pretty good buy the dip event. Any kind of dip action, look at the slope of these lines. Buyers are going to come in. Now, could we get news that might make it slide in a specific way? Potentially, right? But in the grand scheme, your volatility bands are going to help you through that, right? Look, VWAP downward, but now flattening, which means, hey, let me test the prior day's low and recover. Look at what they did. They broke it just like they did in the NQ and immediately recovered, now coming after that retest. All right. So the retest fails, they're going to walk the band down. So be careful about that. Look at this. It's in a neutral state. So sideways, right? Sideways is what we're after. All right. Let's take a look at SPY. Same sort of thing. Take a big peek coming in. Old resistance is much further down at the 501 level. This is a key zone. And I want to keep your eyes on there simply because it's just a good thing to look at, right? So you keep your eyes on that space, but knowing, hey, listen, this is very, very steep. Buyers are coming into support. Support can be deep. So you watch the way the price action runs with these volatility bands. Notice we spiked up and then just have bled through this area. And this morning's price compression's a little bit wider, but still telling me we have one more day of range-based formations, which is why I held those short iron condors into today. Let's go to the Qs. Same thing, a little bit toppy, but coming into support. Buyers really could be maybe a little further down. You know how this gets when it's, running. And so it could really drift down. First group of buyers are going to show up at around that 434 area. That's my suspicion. Take a look at this band. It's just very, very sideways. We have good spikes to the north, good spikes to the south, a lot of movement. So you can really trade these if you're spot on paying attention to the formations. I have the levels there for you. Remember, old resistance wants to be new support most of the time. All right, let's go to the IWM. Let's take a look at the daily formations. Looks a lot like the RTY. A little bit toppy, searching for support. We're below the close of a prior up day, so it means they're hunting for support in order to buy that back. And it could be all the way down at that 201 level. Be careful if the band suddenly takes flight in terms of slope, right? Pre-market slope huge here. So as we come into the day, we know it's a buy the dip, right? If it comes back and touches the VWAP, we've got a long action into that second volatility band. Okay? All right. Lastly, what do we want to look at last? XOP, right? XOP moving very sideways. Look at how it's trapped in here. But this big move in oil could punch these things into higher areas. My thought is we got to be very, very careful positioning here. It's going to be a good long, but not quite this second. All right? Take care, and I'll see you on the platforms.